Okay, here's a confession. This is a nasty confession, but what the fuck? When I was 29, I banged a woman who was 52. Yeah, this was in Mexico, in Cancun, as a matter of fact. I went to Club Med in Cancun, yeah. And I was 29, and I went by myself. I went there, and I had a high old time. Yeah, there are a lot of other single people there, and I hooked up with a bunch of different women. And at one point, I went to Chichen Itza, the site of the Aztec pyramids, or Maya pyramids, whoever the fuck, one of those, little brown people. Yeah. Anyway, I flew to Chichen Itza because, the bus ride was 6 hours, but the plane ride was 45 minutes. I mean, fuck that noise, right? Of course, I flew out there. And along on this trip, there were just older people, because older people could afford the trip. And the younger people, the ones who were interested, they took the bus, which is, I don't know, a fifth as expensive as the plane. But anyway, I was on the plane, and I meet this older woman from New York, and she looked 52, yeah? And, we went around, we saw the whole thing, we got back to Club Med, on the plane ride back, we kept on talking and, did the deed, right? For me, it was total sport fucking. It was there was at some point, on the plane ride back, I thought to myself, she wants to fuck me. And I thought to myself, do I want to fuck her? And I thought to myself, when am I going to have another chance to fuck some 52-year-old woman, right? A woman who is 23 years older than me, right? And, so fuck it. I did the deed, yeah. I'm sorry, Jesus, man, I was fucking crazy back in the day. Now, over the years, I've had my run-ins with older women, right? Older women being, define older women as any woman from the age of 35 on up, okay? And I'm going to explain why. Because 35 is the bright dividing line between a woman and an older woman, okay? And the reason, of course, is because a woman at the age of 35 is, for all intents and purposes, menopausal. She will not be able to carry children. She might after the age of 35, but it'll be just genetic luck, because the most women after the age of 35, they are not fertile anymore. Their fertility drops radically. And anybody who says differently doesn't know the statistics. Between the ages of 32 and 35, a woman's ability to conceive drops by 70%, okay? And most women over the age of 35, in order to have a child, they have to resort to heroic medical measures. Yeah, in vitro fertilization, all kinds of shit, hormone treatment, shit like that. Yes, and that's a fact, okay? And yes, of course, there are women who at the age of fucking 47 somehow managed to conceive. Yeah, the woman with the Guinness Book of World Records had a child naturally conceived at the age of 60 or some shit like that, right? But the vast majority of women after age of 35, it's over. It's over. The factory's closed. That's that. That's the end, okay? So 35 is actually a good starting point insofar as talking about older women. So let's talk about it. The first thing you have to understand about older women is that they are as horny as guys they're as horny as teenage boys. It's as simple as that. A woman who is 35, 37, 40, she is going to have a sex drive like there's no tomorrow, which makes sense, right? She's got this amped up sexual desire because her ability to conceive is ending, right? And her body is just pushing her to have as much sex as possible with the hope that she'll get pregnant, right? And here's the thing, women who have never had children, they are fucking machines. They will fuck anything. They are, it's beyond what's the name of it? I can only think of the word narcolepsy. Not narcolepsy. It's of course. She's what's the name of the woman who's crazy about sex, man? Oh God. Childless older women. are just, it's just kind of sickening, to tell you the truth, okay? When I was living in New York in the very late 90s, I was around 30 years old or so, between 30 and 32, right? And, you know, I hit pretty much a lot of the club scene and the singles bar scene and all that, right? And, you know, the older women were so sexually aggressive. And, you know, I'd go to some bar, you know, a few nights in a row, and I'd see the same woman, and she'd go off with different guys every night, okay? And that time, in the very late 90s, I heard for the first time the term cougar, right? And the idea of cougar came from the fact that these older women who had not been picked up all night at some bar, right? They would stay until the very end of the night, and the only guys left over would be either drunk and stoned, or the very dregs, the very bottom of the sexual market hierarchy. And these women would take one of these losers home because that was the best that they could do. And, you know, the term, I remember it started popping up, and some bartender called them cougars, but other bartenders, right, called them hyenas because they only went after the leftovers, okay? Yeah, and that's older women. Older women, yeah. God, I feel so sorry for them. I feel so sorry for older women because there are so many of them now. See, back in the day, back in the, I don't know, the 70s, 60s, earlier, right? There were relatively few childless women. Most women had children. Most women not only had children, but they had families, and they didn't have a career. Instead, their career, their life's work was building their family. And so their sexual drive, their sexual energy was channeled into raising their family. A lot of guys in the you know, 60s and 50s and 40s and earlier would complain about the fact that their women, their wives, the mother of their children, didn't have any energy for sex, didn't want any sex, right? Because all of their attention was focused on the children, right? Now, you tell me, which is better, to sort of like have a semi-sexless marriage, but the woman is just totally focused on the children and doing everything in her power for the betterment of the children, or a marriage where the woman has, you know, all kinds of sex drive, but there are no children, and the woman's sex drive, the older woman's sex drive, becomes such an issue that she cannot pair bond. Because that's what happens. See, because what happens is that older women, see, they have been inculcated with the whole notion of feminism, that they should, you know, do the whole career thing and all that, and, you know, a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle and all that bullshit, right? And so instead of forming a family, she just builds her career and just goes after one guy and the next. I mean, she goes through these relationships, but the relationships don't have a purpose, you see? These poor career women, they look at their career as their baby and their relationship as a kind of entertainment, as having a permanent sexual partner and somebody to go to the movies with. That's what they view a relationship with. They don't see the man-woman relationship for what it is, which is, of course, the idea of coming together between two members of the opposite sex to build a family. That's the point of it. If you're not building a family, then there's really no point in having a relationship with a woman, or with a man if you are a woman. You see what I mean? There's no point in a heterosexual relationship if there are no children. It just becomes an entertainment. And see, that's what happens with these older women. See? They view all relationships as entertainments. The different kinds of entertainments, you know, because like you can think of it like there are certain soap operas that are kind of tragic and sad and everybody cries and what have you. And there are other movies and whatnot that are triumphal and fun, right? But see, the older women, the older single woman, the woman who has never successfully pair bonded, she will go from relationship to relationship. And to her, the idea is that she will experience an adventure in the relationship, but there will be no purpose to it. Just like a soap opera. A soap opera goes on and on and on forever, but there's no end. There's no purpose to it. It's just an entertainment to fill in your time, right? There's no goal to be reached. And this is the tragedy of older women. See, these older women, you know, they get older and older, and of course they become less and less attractive, right? Because a woman's sexual attractiveness peaks when she's 21, and from there it's just downhill, right? Now a woman, she hits 40, 45, 50, and there are very few guys who are going to want to fuck them. Yeah? I mean, like I told you at the beginning of this video, this woman I fucked who was 52. Yeah, but you know, she was pretty good looking for a 52-year-old woman. Yeah, but it was just sport fucking. It was just like, you know, I once fucked a woman who weighed like 350 pounds. I was up in Alaska, right? This was what, 2001 or some shit like that? Yeah. And yeah, I wanted to fuck her because she was huge. And I thought to myself, man, I'm never going to be able to fuck some woman like this. Or let me phrase that. I am never going to be in such a weird psychic moment in my life where I would want to fuck a 350-pound woman. And so I did. Yeah. Same thing with this older woman. I'm like, fuck it. You know, I'm never going to have this opportunity again. I'm never going to be in like the mood to do this shit again. Let's try it. Let's tick it off the bucket list. Right. And so I went ahead and fucked her. But it was kind of grim. It was a lot grim, yeah? It was a lot grim, and it was, she wasn't even very good. That was a surprising thing. She was clearly experienced, but she wasn't good. And what she thought a guy would like, no, she had the totally wrong idea. Well, you learn something every day, I suppose. Okay, there I overshared. Oh yeah, I think I'm gonna edit that part. Yeah, well, I don't know. I'll see it when I get to the editing suite. But the fact remains, older women are less and less attractive with every year that goes by. And it's a shock to them. It's a real shock to them, and they freak out, okay? An older woman, as she starts to realize that she is less and less attractive every year that goes by, she takes it as some sort of personal affront, yeah? Because just as when she was young, she thought that people were attracted to her rather than to her sexual attractiveness, right? When she's older, she thinks that people are rejecting her as opposed to rejecting the fact that she is sexually not so interesting as back when she was 21. You see what I mean? And so it causes all kinds of stress and strain in an older woman's head. An older woman is psychically totally fucked up. Yeah. Now, a lot of younger guys seem to go for older women. Right? This is my thinking on it. A lot of times these younger guys who are going out with older women, you know, the guy who's like 27 and he's dating some woman who's 35, or he's 33 and he's dating some woman who's 45, right? I think it's unhealthy for the guy. And I think a lot of times it's symptomatic that the guy basically wants to be taken care of, but taken care of like mothered, which is, I think, very unhealthy. Okay? A guy who wants to be, I don't want to say it like in a Freudian sense of like fucking his mother. No, it's not that. It's he wants to be mothered and he wants to be controlled. Okay? A guy who wants that, I think that he's got a couple of screws loose. I think he has failed to mature. And I think that he's going on a wrong path. Yeah? Because I think that a man who needs an older woman and who is only interested in an older woman has issues, see? Because it's not natural. A guy who's like, say, 35 should not be interested in a woman who is 45 because the woman cannot bear him children, right? And the natural order of things from evolution is that a man who's 35 ought to be interested in a girl who's 21, 25, tops. Yeah. A woman who is fertile. A woman who's 45, she is not fertile. And so a young guy who's consistently going after an older woman, there's something going on there. And it's something that he should, examine, professionally. Go and find a shrink and talk it out and start to figure it out. Because it's not normal, it's not healthy. Because a relationship like that has no future, because there will never be any children, and children are the future, as the schmaltzy line says. It's schmaltzy, but it's true. Children are the future, and a man in his prime who's going after an older woman, he's denying that to himself. And that's not right. Now, a woman who's older and who wants to have an actual relationship and actually get married to a younger guy, okay, she's got a couple of screws loose too. Because, see, the first thing that's going on is that, see, she's like 45 years old and she's going for a guy who's 35 years old, right? What is she actually doing? See, a guy who's 35, what would be an appropriate woman for him? Anything between 21 and say 32, right? So a woman who's 45, when she is latching on to a guy who's 35, is more likely than not trying to pretend to herself that she's still young, that she's still got it, that she's still hot, yeah, that she's still fertile. She's not. She's 45. It's over. The fertility window closed on her. She might be able to use makeup and hair products and clothes to pretend to be still sexually attractive, right? To put out those sexual cues that will attract a man. But, you know, under all that crap, all the makeup, and you wipe it all away, and all the hair products and hair coloring and what have you, she is a 45-year-old woman. She cannot bear children. It's over. She is not going to be sexually attractive to most normal guys. And so a woman of that age who's going for a guy who's 35, she wants to pretend that she's still got it, that she's still fertile. That's what she's trying to do. She's trying to recapture her youth. Because a woman who's 45, right? What kind of guy would she be interested in normally? A guy who's 50 to 55, right? But if she's going for a guy who's 35, she's trying to fool herself. Number one. And number two, what's going on is that she wants a man that she can control. Yeah, because inevitably, a woman who's 45 years old, right? She is going to be more mature with more life experience than a man who's 35, for the obvious fact that she's 10 years older. She's had 10 more years of being an adult. All that experience, accumulated experience, is going to count for something, and she'll be able to handle a guy who's 35, manipulate him, boss him around to her will. It's going to be easy for her, yeah? And she is going to do so. She's going to do so. Point of fact, I would argue that most of the time, a woman who is 45 dating a guy who's 35, or, you know, that kind of age discrepancy, that's, you know, if it's not the big point for her, then it's up there, okay? To tell you the truth, I'm not sure if it's the idea of trying to fool herself into thinking that she's still young and fertile, or if she just wants to boss the guy around, or maybe a combination. It doesn't matter. You see what I'm saying? That's what's going on. It's an unhealthy relationship. When I heard that Emmanuel Macron's wife was like 20 years older than him, I knew he was gay. I knew he was gay and in the closet, okay? Because, see, that's what's going on. It doesn't make any sense for a healthy man, a healthy and successful political figure, to be with a woman 20 years his senior. It doesn't make any sense at all. A man who is, you know, politically successful, he's a leader, right? He's going to want to have kids. The only men who don't want kids are gay men. They don't want kids, they just want to have sex. The fact that Emmanuel Macron is with some woman 20 years older than him, right? He's a politician, so he wants to keep his homosexuality on the down low. That makes sense, a beard. That's what's going on, see? That relationship, it's totally unhealthy. Now, if an older woman is watching this video and she is, you know, looking at me with gritted teeth and she wants to just like punch the screen where my big fat face is, right? Yeah. You want to shoot the messenger because you can't take the message. A woman who is older, who is childless, has mismanaged her life. That's the truth. That's the hard and bitter truth. A woman who is 45 and with some guy who's 35 and pretending to herself that she's just serendipitously living through life and enjoying life and some shit like that, right? And going to fusion Thai restaurants or some crap like that with her 32, 35-year-old boyfriend and thinking that her life is la-di-da, so wonderful and so sophisticated and what have you. She is a failure at life because she failed to have children. She failed to have a normal, happy, healthy family. And she is pretending to herself that she is living a successful life. It's not successful. It's not successful, it's sick. Now, how come this isn't the reverse? How come an older guy is not sick when he's dating some younger girl? Yeah? Some 52-year-old fart dating a 20-year-old girl, right? And, you know, sometimes it's a little unusual, but for the most part, people don't say shit. And the 20-year-old girl seems happy as a clam with the guy, and she seems perfectly normal. How come? For the obvious and unfair reason that an older guy will still be able to have kids. Yeah? Because he doesn't have to bear them, right? His body might not be able to bear children if you were a woman, but if he's a guy, sure, he can get some 20-year-old girl pregnant, and she will want to be impregnated by him because if he's 52 and he's got his shit together and he's made a lot of money and he's got everything organized and he is taking care of himself and is looking all right, he's going to be a catch for a 20-year-old girl. He's going to be a catch, and she's going to want to be with him and want to have his babies. And it's going to be perfectly normal, and they will be able to have babies and form a normal, happy, healthy family. The guy might be old, but it's not going to take away from the fact that they will be able to form a family. That will never be the case with a woman who's 52. It just cannot happen because nature is cruel, and that's life. Older women were brought up under the blinders, the ideological blinders of feminism. Older women who are in their late 30s, their 40s, their 50s were lied to. And it's a tragedy. They were lied to, and they were told that they could have it all. That they could have a career, and they could have a guy and a family. The career was pushed on them. They were brainwashed, quite frankly, into thinking that they could not be happy without a career. They were brainwashed with this ideology, and they sacrificed their most fertile years for the sake of their job, which is a tragedy, okay? And this has happened many times in the past, by the way. Oh yeah. In the Middle Ages, for instance, the best women, the noble women, the healthiest, brightest women, you know what they were urged to do? What they were ideologically pushed into doing? They were pushed into joining a convent and living in a convent forever and never having a family of their own and just worshiping God all day and copying manuscripts. And they spent their entire lives doing that. They sacrificed their lives for the religion, but their lives were pointless. Their lives were thrown away for the sake of this religion. Yeah? And that's what happened to older women. And that's why I feel so sad for them. They threw their lives away, and what do they have to show for it? Absolutely nothing.